Hey, what is up guys? GuitarRock here, welcome back to another SINoALICE video. Okay, so just to clarify again in case you guys missed my beginner's guide, every single character, alright, will have all the classes available to them. It's just who do you want to play more. So basically you have, currently in the game we have a total of 8 different characters, right? So each of them will have, as of right now, alright, they will have the Gunner, the Paladin, the Breaker, the Crusher, the Minstrel, Sorceress, Mage, and Cleric classes associated to them. Alright, so let's use Alice as an example, alright, since I think she's like literally the main character, I think. So Alice will have a Breaker version of her, alright. So this is the Breaker class Alice. Breaker specializes in using swords. So she also have the Crusher, which specializes in using hammers. She will have a Gunner version of her, which specializes in using crossbows and guns. She will have a Paladin version of her, which specializes in using polearms and spears. She will also have Cleric, alright, where she can use staffs to heal. She will have Minstrel, where she can use instruments for buffs. So Sorcerer class, where they use books to debuffs. And lastly, Mage, alright, Mage is basically the support class that deals damage. Alright, we're gonna cover each of it individually. As you can see, alright, this is for Alice alone. So Alice will have all of these classes available to her. So you just have to unlock the classes by playing through the game, story mode, etc. Or some of it is associated in the Grimoire, you have to pull for them. So now that we slightly know about the classes, let's talk about each classes that the weapons specialize in. So each class can basically choose their respective weapons. Alright, this will give them bonus. If they use this, if I'm not mistaken, they get 10% extra damage out of it. Alright, 10% bonus. So for the sword and for the rest of this, alright, so just because, you know, Snow White Breaker class, for example, alright, Breaker class are basically swordsmen. They specializes in using swords. That doesn't mean they can't use all the other weapons. Alright, they can use spears, they can use bows or guns, they can use hammers, which are crusher weapons. Sword specializes in dealing high physical damage to one unit, alright, to one enemy. So Breaker class will basically main this as their main weapon. Okay, and then next we have the hammers, alright. So hammers specializes in dealing physical damage to multiple enemies, so it's much more of an AoE as opposed to dealing massive damage to just one single enemy. So the classes that specializes in using hammers are crushers, alright. Okay, so next we have Gunners. So Gunners uses guns and bows. So right now I don't think I have any bows, but guns and bows are fallen under the same category. So oh yeah, I do have a bow right here. Can you guys see? So this is a bow, but this is a gun, right? So they are both fallen under the same category. It's a bit confusing if you look at the weapon itself. Ideally you want to look at this small icon right beside it on the top right. Alright, you can see this one are specialized by Gunners. Alright, both crossbows and guns. Now similar to swords, guns or bows basically deal massive damage to a single enemy. But as opposed to doing physical, they deal magical damage. Alright, so high magical damage to one enemy. Okay, and lastly we have spears. Spears is gonna be similar with hammers. Alright, so they are used by Paladin classes. So Paladin classes specializes in using spears, and they deal AoE magical damage to 2 enemies. Alright, 1 to 2 enemies depending. So some of it, like this one, have an additional effect, slightly restores own HP. So yeah, spears and skite as well. So this is a skite that you can buy from the beginner's pack or whatever. Alright, this is fallen under spear. Again, try to look at the top right icon. So this is a spear. Alright, not to be confused of this as being a sword. So this will also fall in the category of being the main weapon for Paladin classes. Okay, let's talk about minstrels. Alright, minstrels, they basically use either any instruments. Alright, harps, violins, you might have gotten one of those in your reroll process. So these are used to support allies, basically to support and increase buffs. Usually it increase attack, physical attack or magical attack. That one will be dependent on the weapon itself. Okay, so next up we have staffs. Alright, so this is basically used by clerics to heal, basically. Alright, so of course it can be used by any of the 4 support classes, but ideally clerics main them, and they usually restores HP. So next we have books. Alright, so books is basically to apply debuffs to the enemy. Alright, so you can see this particular one slightly reduces physical damage and magical damage. And lastly, we have Orbs. Alright, so these are specifically used by mages to deal damage. So if you are a support class, the only way for you to deal damage is to use Orbs, or else the other three equipable items, the instrument will apply buffs, the staffs are used to heal, and the books are used to debuff. So you can't really damage the enemy. So if you want to main this class, so this is kind of an essential one. But from what I gather, the mages are not a good class to main. Alright, that's because in Colosseum, they deal very little damage. So ideally, this is not a class that you want to specifically focus on as far as I know. Okay, so with that being said, let's move on to the weapon itself. So you might have noticed every single weapon, alright, so regardless of what you look at, will have 3 individual skill level. Alright, so this one, it says in story, Inferno of Exorcism. So now it's level 1. And then in Colosseum, it will do the same. And Colosseum support, it will basically chance of slightly reducing enemies' magical attack when attacking. So, to upgrade your equipments, quite simple. You go to upgrade gear right here, you click on this. So let's say you want to upgrade this particular one. So you can actually use all of these EXP swords to increase your level. But how do you increase the skill level? That one you will have to use the equipments. Now this is not something that you want to do early on. Unless you have plenty of equipments, you should avoid doing that. Yes, it's going to improve your skill level. But if you are starting early on, you want to have as many, like in each character. Alright, let me show you guys. Unless you have all of this filled out all the way till here, you shouldn't actually spend any of the equipments for level up. So that's something that you want to do later on in the game, but not in the beginning stage right now. Okay, so let me just show it to you guys, just to make it clear. So if you use this, notice it only increase this particular weapons level, but if you use any of the equipments, be it A-type, S-type or SR, so now you see, not only does it increase your level, on top it also increase all 3 of the skills. Alright, if you use SR, boom, that is a lot of EXP. So improving this can be good in the long run. That means that your weapon will deal more skill damage. But like I mentioned, it's not something you have to do early on. So in battle, right, when you level up your weapons, so let's say this weapon is level 50. Alright, I will have my stats increased. Okay, so I have this level 60. So this is the crucial part, right? So level 60, what it does for increasing a weapon up to level 60, alright, or maxing it, is just that you get more stats overall. Alright, I get more physical attack, physical defense, magical attack, magical defense, etc. Okay, so the difference between this particular weapon, the damage that it deals, alright, since you can see, my skill level is still level 1. So whenever I deal this Torrent of Exorcism 3, so let's say I have this weapon at level 60, comparing the same one to level 1, if I use both of them, you can't use the same weapon in battle, but ideally speaking, if I were to use this level 60 or a level 1 weapon, there will be no difference in terms of the output damage that they will deal, because that is affected by the skill. Alright, what the level 60 does is it gives you more stats to your characters equipping them, and that's about it. Obviously, your character having more stats is going to be much more beneficial. That will also increase their output damage slightly. And one more thing, when we're talking about weapon, there will be option to limit break your gear and evolving your gear. So this is something that you guys have to pay attention to. So you can do this for your weapon and your nightmare as well. Alright, so what this does is if you have duplicates, you can actually limit break them. For example, I have this kite right here. Alright, so if I limit break with another similar, you need a duplicate. Alright, this is something that you should only do once you have duplicate. If I'm not mistaken, there's a bunch of missions that require you to do it. If you have plenty of A duplicates, maybe just do it for the mission itself. Okay, so what this will do is it will do 2 things. It will increase your cap level, okay, from 60 to 65. And you can see, once limit broken, I will have 1 diamond right there. So each weapon can be limit broken 4 times, alright, if you fill up all this way. So every time, if I'm not mistaken, you will have your skill increase slightly. Just now was 15. So now the cap is increased to 16 and the cap of my level will be increased to 65. Okay, and then we have evolution, right? So evolution is going to be a little bit different. So you can see right here, alright, I do have some weapons that I actually can evolve already. So I do have 2 of these weapons which I can evolve. But ideally, Evolution will require these materials, which you can farm. It's part of the dailies. Alright, you need 17 of those. You need how many of those is mentioned right there. So you need to max level them first before you can evolve. That is something to keep in mind. Alright, you need to max level them. So this one is currently level 32. So before you evolve this gear, it needs to be level 60. Which is why you see all of these gears are grayed out for me. Like even this one is grayed out for me, even though I have all the materials. Because this is level 41. Alright, it will not allow me to evolve them until they are max level. So once they are max level, you can actually evolve them. They will go one step above and they will become L. Alright, for SR weapons, they will turn into L, which is legendary, I think. For S weapons, they will become SR when you evolve them. And for A weapons, they will become S. So I don't think it's worth it to evolve your S weapons. Ideally, you want to prioritize the SRs first because these are your strongest weapons, ideally. So one thing to note that someone has told me before in the comment section, I have no way to test this out, but evolution requires your gear to be max leveled. Alright, keep that in mind, to be max leveled. So ideally, you may want to do evolution first before you limit break your gear. Now why is that? Because when I limit break my gear, so now I'm at max level. Max level is 60, right? So if I limit break this, so now my max level increased to 65. So in this case, I have no way to confirm this. Okay, someone did told me this because it's not registering this as max level. So now you have 5 more levels to max. So now I have to level this up even further before I can evolve it. Alright, because evolution requires that you have a max level weapon. Okay, so cannot evolve current level 1. You need a max level weapon. So it's mentioned every time right here as well. Gear not at maximum level cannot evolve. So you need the gears to be at max level. So when you limit break, you are increasing the max level cap every time. So therefore, if you have, let's say you happen to have duplicate, maybe you want to perform evolution first before you limit break them. Now if you think about it, you are actually saving a little bit of your resources because look at it this way. When you have equipment at level 60, right? So when you limit break them, the cap increases to 65. So you need to spend a couple of extra resources, a couple of extra EXP swords to level them up to 65. Perform evolution on them, they go back to level 1. So think of it this way, you are actually wasting the extra levels needed to pay for the extra 5 levels, if that makes sense. Now this is something that I think most players need to pay attention to. And one more thing regarding evolution, right? Notice after you evolve, you are going to go back to level 1. Okay, so this is something that's very crucial. So I don't think this is worth doing unless you have plenty of materials to level it up back to what level it was previously. Because right now, alright, this particular gun at level 60, it gives me this amount of stats. Alright, so 1215 magical attack. So if I perform evolution to this gun, right? So that stats will significantly, because I'm reaching back level 1, so now my magical attack like reduces by half. So unless you have plenty of materials to level them up all over again, you shouldn't do this yet. So I would say try to farm as many materials as you can, or else you are basically handicapping yourself, alright? So in a way, you're using an inferior version of your weapon, if that makes sense. Okay, so that pretty much sums up everything you need to know about gears. And one last thing, so regarding the gear, like I mentioned, for example, guns deals insane magical damage to an enemy, and sword deals insane physical damage to an enemy. How to know which one to prioritize in using? When you enter a stage, alright, regardless of what stage it is, either in story or anything. So right here, I'm going to show you guys. You can actually look at the enemy, alright, the boss that you're facing off against. So you can see this boss has high physical attack, decent physical defense. So for example, if I am fighting this boss, Plan Water, it makes more sense to bring something with high magical attack because his magical defense is lower than his physical defense. Alright, so this is something that you guys have to take into consideration. There will be much more strategy moving forward later on into the game. Alright, so in this case, using guns makes much more sense. It's going to deal more damage to this guy compared to using swords, which relies on physical damage. Alright, so in this case, this boss is much more balanced. Alright, Physical defense is 3 stars, magical defense is also 3 stars. So when you're fighting enemies like this, it doesn't matter as much. But some enemies are super weak against certain type of weapons. So that's something that you guys have to take into consideration. Okay, so with that being said, that's gonna be it for this weapon system. I guess I'll try to do more guides for the classes specifically, because I think that's where most players are confused as well. So yeah, stay tuned for the next video. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, turn on your notification as well. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a nice day. Goodbye.